to celebrate history. And what I'd like to do today to start our program, yes, it's Murtis, give you a little history lesson. So just as a timeline perspective, I want to tell you something that was happening in the world this week, 100 years ago. This week, about 100 years ago, the American presence is beginning to be known during the World War I conflict. What's happening now is we have our soldiers, our troops are entering the European front, including our own Polk County Doughboys. And what's happening just now is we're just about to see our presence being felt as we head to the road of victory to what we have known as the Great War, the war to end all wars, World War I. So as we commemorate the centennial of this conflict, the Polk County History Center with other partners are doing all kinds of things to commemorate and remember the importance and the impact this had on the world and on our country and on Polk County. So join us as we commemorate this occasion. So now what I'd like to do is I have the opportunity to introduce people who make a big difference locally. So I want to start with our own Polk County Board of County Commission, Melanie Bell, who serves as our chairman. Here's Melanie. Oh, and beautiful granddaughter. Our vice chairman, Todd Dantzler. And Bill Braswell is somewhere in the crowd. And this is great, we have such a nice crowd. The City of Winter Haven doing great things and accomplishing great things. Let me acknowledge Mayor Stephen Honeycutt, Mayor Pro Tem Nat Birdsong, Commissioner Brad Dantzler, Commissioner William Twyford, City Manager Mike Herr. Now, I'd like to introduce some folks to you that help us accomplish our job, and those are the members of the Polk County Historical Commission, beginning with Tim Pospical, who serves as chairman of the commission. There's Tim. Jennifer Bush, all about history, and particularly Publix history. S.L. Frisbee IV, somewhere in the room, from the Democrat, retired. Ruth Ann Witter Malloy, from the Kathleen area. Connie White over in Lake Alfred, and Jan Parham representing the Barstow area. I'd also like to acknowledge a gentleman who helps us accomplish the great things that we try to accomplish. That's Jeff Spence, who serves as Director of Natural Resource Parks and Natural Resources. He keeps me straight. Jeff? So just before we begin the program, let me tell you just a little bit about what it is. First of all, acknowledging the great leadership and wisdom of the Polk County Board of County Commission as they keep the Historical Commission moving forward, and particularly as we introduced the Polk County Historical Marker Program 2 years ago. Presently, there are 21 historical markers that are installed throughout the county on sites of historical significance to our great history. The 1940 Publix supermarket is the second one to be dedicated this year. And we are so pleased to learn from Jennifer that Winter Haven will host another site, which will be the first Publix store around the corner. More to come about that. We'll be back to celebrate that again soon. So in your program, there's some information about the marker program. Please notice that. If you have a historical site you'd like to mark, please let us know. Thank you so much. And now I'd love to have you help me welcome to the podium Father Nicholas O'Brien, our host today, who will offer our invocation.
Thank you. And let us bow our heads in prayer. Good and gracious God, we are brought here together this morning because of a man who put people first. George Jenkins set out on a mission that remains alive today and created a company the community can count on. This first public supermarket, once known as a food palace of marble, glass, and stucco, was built because of a man who had a vision and commitment to providing dignity and respect to all people, realizing the importance of a partnership with others to be a success. Today, we partner together to remind all who gather here at St. Matthew's Disciples Corner, and to all who will see this marker made of cast iron for years to come. Never to give up on your ambitions. Continue to show respect and dignity to all people. Devote yourself to the highest standards of stewardship and be involved as responsible citizens. And so, good and gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather here as your people, united together as one, and ask for the blessings of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Bush, and on behalf of Publix, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here and how much fun it was this morning already, having some conversations with folks and hearing some stories. And as a matter of fact, we've got a number of Publix people who have come out for this event. We have our lots of folks from the Winter Haven stores, those who serve you here in Winter Haven. Can you guys raise your hand? There we are. We've got some out in the crowd. We've got our Regional Director Patrick Helm and District Manager Ed Dean. Where are you guys? There we go. Thanks. I see a lot of Publix faces out there, so if I start trying to recognize and name people, I will miss somebody. So how about let's do it like this. If you are a Publix associate, raise your hand. Let's see, we're all our Publix people. Keep the hands up. All right, you guys keep your hands up, and now let's add to that. Anybody in the crowd who has a family member who has worked for Publix or who worked for, okay, here we go, some more hands. All right. How about anybody out there who has worked for Publix in the past, maybe some retirees? Add your hands to the mix, okay? More hands going up. All right, there we go, yay. All right, indulge me one last time. Everybody keep your hands up. How about if you have been involved with an organization that has benefited from the generosity of Publix or Publix Supermarkets charities? Here we go. What does that tell you? Clearly, without a doubt, Publix is a part of your life. Publix is a part of all of our lives, and you are all a part of the Publix family. And speaking of Publix family, we have a very special guest with us today, and I'm so happy to recognize to you one of the members of the Jenkins family, a descendant of George Jenkins. We have with us today Mr. Wesley Barnett. Wesley. Did you have Gregory Fancelli anywhere? Was he able to attend?
He's on his way.
Oh, he's on his way. Okay, you'll get to meet him later. So there will be two grandsons of Mr. George. And you know, Wesley, it's because of your grandfather that we're all standing here today. Now, actually, you know, this is not the first Publix store. As Murda said, the original, but it was a Publix food store, not a supermarket. That building is just a couple of blocks away in what is now Tempo 1930, the restaurant. Did you get that, Tempo 1930? Guess where they got that name? Guess where they got that part of their name? That's because Mr. George opened that first store in 1930. And I think some of you probably know the answer to the trivia question that gets asked all the time, where did he come up with the name Publix? Well, he didn't invent the name. It was a well-known chain of movie theaters. He always said he just liked the sound of it, so he decided to name his business Publix Food Store. So that's where the name came from. But it was in that first store that he began serving his customers, building relationships, and building dreams and ideas for something that no one had ever seen before in the food industry. From 1930 until 1940, he traveled the country. He went on these idea gathering trips. He went all over looking for ideas and ways to bring customers the store of their dreams. And it wasn't just the store of theirs, it was his dream. And that dream came true 10 years later from the opening of that first store in 1940. As a matter of fact, on November the 8th, 1940, that's when George Jenkins opened the doors of his store in this very building, just where we're standing. And just like you look all around and there are crowds here today and cars parked all over, that's what it was like back in 1940 and November 8th. People could not wait to get into the store. And I'll tell you one thing that they probably came out for it by the droves to see, and that's something that we all take for granted today. The automatic doors. Can you believe it? There were people that they just came from all over to walk through a door that opens up for you, and then when you walk through, it closes behind you. In fact, the newspaper called it the magic eye door. It was like magic. You could walk through this door. Another thing that we take for granted today that I cannot imagine shopping or doing anything without: air conditioning. So George Jenkins put into his store innovations that no one had done in the industry. This store put Publix and Winter Haven on the history pages of food retailing. So we're all so proud to be a part of that. In this building, he decorated it beautifully. There were pastel colors. When his customers came in, they could hear music playing. I mean, it really was the beginning of what we're known today as the place where what? Shopping is a pleasure. And it's like Father O'Brien said, it was called the Marble and Stucco Palace. Palace, that's an appropriate word because that was his goal. He wanted his customers to feel like royalty, like kings and queens. How more appropriate than a palace? Now, he was here until 1957, and when he closed this location, and then we went to Northgate, just up on 6th Street. And the property went into the hands of the J.T. Coward family. And I'm very pleased to recognize today a member of the Coward family. Chris, where are you? Chris, raise your hand. Chris Coward. And you also have another family member?
Another grandson, Oscar.
Another grandson, Oscar. And here's the really cool thing, is when we started working on this marker application and looking at deeds and the name Coward came up, well, I knew that we had somebody at Publix with the name Coward. I'm like, well, there's just no way they would be related. Guess what? They were related. So not only is Chris part of this history with his own family, but he's also part of the Publix family. So to me, that was just the coolest thing ever. Now, in the next folks that took over this property, that was the Winter Haven Baptist Church, and they were here for a while. And then, of course, most recently, it's St. Matthew Catholic Church. And before I turn this mic over to Father O'Brien to share some comments with you, I just want to say thank you so much to St. Matthew, and truly, George Jenkins, I feel that he would be so happy to know that what he started here in 1940 now today is the home of such a wonderful and worthwhile ministry program. So thank you so much to St. Matthew. Father O'Brien?
And it's good to be here with all of you, and I don't want to speak because I'll go on here forever, but I have to share with you an experience I had last night when I left here. Our front section, or one of our showcase windows, I thought, this really is our Disciples' Corner, and we have one up at the church where we have a coffee machine there, and people just gather to share their faith together and their conversation. We want to do that here also. But I want to introduce to you one of our parish members, who is the head of our Matthew 25:35 ministry. And he's going to speak to you about what's happening here and in our church. Kenneth. So.
Thank you. And good morning for everyone. I'm here to speak about what goes on here now as St. Matthew's I'm here to talk about what goes on here today in that St. Matthew's is working. Today, this place is what everyone sees today is an actual thrift store. But to those of us who at the church know there is more here that meets the eye, that you see. Today, this whole facility here is part of a ministry we call Matthew 25:35. If you're familiar with the gospel passage in Matthew, this is where Jesus talks about, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. What you don't see today is, even in the parking lot right over here, every Sunday, about 12:30, we have volunteers that come out every Sunday and deliver non-perishable meals to those in need. Those that come here or prayed with, prayed over, or any needs that they need at that moment, we help. Then when we leave this facility, all the volunteers actually take a lunch with them, and they go across Polk County and spread this ministry around. We've delivered lunches to folks as far as Charleston, South Carolina. From here, in the thrift store, as you see, when you walk in today, you see the crucifix, if you didn't notice. You hear the Christian music playing. Even in this location, as you shop, We use the ministries from the mission, from Catholic Charities to allow vouchers so those in need come here and are given things to help them out. So all you see here, we welcome all strangers, everyone following the mission that we put forward together here at the thrift store today. What you see in the music that plays, and even soon to be, you'll see the gift shop to remind people where and what this place is, that there is a ministry here. I know in this world today, it seems kind of crazy with what we do at our unborn, with abortion, with the killing of our police officers, and the insanity in our inner cities with the violence. Here is a place where you come and to know, because sometimes we think to ourselves, who's really in charge? But when you walk through those doors, you hear the music, you see the bookstore, you're reminded who is in charge here. God is here. God is at work. He is truly in charge. And those here that come here are welcomed and are benefited and helped. Those closest to Him, the poor and disenfranchised, are here and they get that help. So, like Father said earlier, that I believe that what Mr. Jenkins of above knows now, and you know, that there's more than what here that meets the eye. There's more than thrift shop store here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Mackey. And I have a couple of announcements to make. One is, I'm pleased to say and acknowledge everybody that the other Publix family member, Gregory Fancelli, Gregory, raise your hand and say hello to everybody, has arrived. And then some logistics before I turn over the mic my final time. As we conclude the program today, what we're going to do is exit through the exit door and wind up at the marker for the unveiling. Don't pass the podium without noticing we have an antique Publix coffee can on display. You've got to check it out. It's just crazy. Well, I tell you, as a museum manager, I'm tempted to tuck it under my wing and take it back to it, but I promise I won't. We're in a holy place, right? So now it is my privilege to introduce our Vice Chairman of the Polk County Board of County Commissioners, Todd Dantzler.
Thank you, Margaret. Everyone here has a Publix story, I'm sure, or two or three or four. And I was talking to my mom last night, telling her about the event today. And she said, well, this was your dad's old goat farm. And I went, what are you talking about? And my dad was born in 1931, and his parents' house was right here behind this building. The schoolhouse was at the other end of the block where the post office is. And my dad was the fourth child of four, and he was intolerant of cow's milk. So my grandfather had a goat or two, and they were right here where the store is. And so my grandfather would milk the cows, so my dad would have milk to drink as a baby. And there's a doctor in town that many of you may know. His name's T.C. Karamidas, Dr. Karamidas. He had one of his sons that was cow milk intolerant as well. So he would pick up milk on his way home to give his son, and it was right here. Mom said he had one or two goats. I don't know that. And when Jennifer made a comment about the magic eye on the doors, my mom called my dad out again and said he was one of those kids that would go and stick his hand in front of the magic eye just to watch the doors go open and close to let the cold air out. So to the Jenkins family, I apologize for the acts of my father. On the program, it shows that I'm up next to speak, but I'm going to introduce our county chairman, Melanie Bell. She had a scheduling conflict until yesterday and was able to clear that conflict. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Bell, our county chairman, to come up for a few remarks. Chairman?
Thanks for that goat story. That's interesting. It really was. But on behalf of the Polk County Board of County Commissioners, I'd like to just congratulate Publix Supermarkets for being able to unveil this great dedication today of this historical marker. One of the country's most admired grocery stores. It doesn't matter wherever you are. We were in Colorado a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said, you're from Florida, oh, you get to shop at Publix. So everywhere you go, people know about Publix, and they're moving and more northern from us. But it's a wonderful store, and I know that all of us enjoy shopping there. But whoever knew then that George Jenkins, through his first public supermarket, would have the vision to create and build the most respected quality food retailer in the world. Mr. George, an innovator, opened his Publix prototype right here in 1940 with lots of new features, but perhaps his most lasting legacy is the high standard of customer service that he expected from his employees, and the employees' ownership that they had in their programs is still in place today. Polk County's Historical Marker Program provides an opportunity to recognize historical sites important to our county's history. It is truly fitting that today we recognize Mr. George and Publix as he's remembered. And thank you everyone for coming out, and especially thank you to Publix Supermarkets for coming forward with this, and Murtis Young. We appreciate your dedication to all of the markers throughout Polk County. And if you haven't been able to go out and take a trip to look at them, they're truly, it is remarkable about the markers. There's so many historical sites here in Polk County, and we have little maps that you can take a tour of and get out and see all of that. But thanks so much, and again, congratulations to Publix Supermarkets.
Just a couple of instructions before we walk out the door. What we're going to do, like Myrna said, we're going to go out and we're going to go up towards the where the marker is. It's covered, so we're going to have an official unveiling. So Father O'Brien, I'll ask you to join for that unveiling, and I would like for the chair for the Historical Marker Committee, Tim Poskable, would you join for the unveiling representing the Historical Marker Committee, and then also Commissioner Bell. So the four of us will join up there. We will unveil it. After that, it's going to be time for some official picture taking. So bear with us for that. I would love to get the Winter Haven City Commissioners for an official photo there, as well as the county commissioners, our Publix folks from the retail stores. I would also like to have you stand by. So all of you can't just rush in for cake and refreshments immediately. Stick around for some photos, and then you can come in inside and join everybody else for the delicious Publix cake and refreshments, courtesy of St. Matthew. So here we go. Yeah, that would work. So, Tim? Need Gregory up here?
It's very heavy one too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pierre.
Don't take that one off yet.
Okay.
Here, keep your hand. So you're ready to unveil it?
Oh my car right now.
Yes. Okay, we're almost there. Do we have all the cameras ready? Are we ready? Do we need a countdown?
Ready.
1, 2, 3.
Told you against that.
All right. Okay. Now everybody can go in for refreshments except those of us who need to get some quick photos.
Okay. Do you want city commissioner? We got 4. I'll get them.
Okay. You'll get those lined up.
And I need to, so I had to get serious about it. Every morning.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you too. Of course, you're dressed in black, so you don't want to stand outside.
Oh, thank you. It's been a lot of work.
I'm sure.
Hi.
How you doing?
Nice to see you again.
You too. You getting some good shots?
Yes, I am. Thanks.
You want one smaller, shorter?
Yeah, well, not shorter, but narrower. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. That's what it is.
I was here.
Days ago.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Kenneth, come here. Susan, jump in here. Beverly. Richard, you can jump in also.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Well, he pushes me, you better come.
Their names were on a plaque that was somewhere near the red brick fountain.
Well, this is the, and I'll get back by there, I'll get back to them just to see if there's, perhaps more, something under closer to the curtain. But, this is the flagpole that's just, facing north, it's just to the left of that.
But I think it's not really sure about
Okay. 1940 Publix supermarket. George W. Jenkins opened the first Publix food store in Winter Haven in 1930. 5 years later, he opened his second location in town. He closed these first 2 stores to open his dream store, the first Publix supermarket on this site, November 8, 1940. Jenkins combined the most advanced elements of U.S. food retailing with his own ideas to create a supermarket unlike any before. It featured air conditioning, fluorescent lighting, and frozen food cases. The interior decor of pastel colors, beautiful terrazzo tile, and soft music create a pleasant atmosphere for shoppers. The store's crown glory was its electric eye door, and the amenity that exceeded the innovation of what any other retail food company was offering at the time. It was called a Food Palace in marble, glass, and stucco. Publix operated here until 1957 and was replaced by a new store in Winter Haven. Polk County Heritage Site, sponsored by the Polk County Historical Commission, Public Supermarkets Inc., St. Matthew's Catholic Church, 2016. And of course it's double-sided.